My mum seems to think my sister should have married my husband instead of me, and it's making me question everything about our relationship. I'm upset with my mom and sister because of something my mother said, but everyone around me thinks I'm overreacting. Please tell me honestly if I'm being insecure or if my mom and husband are in the wrong. Let me give you some background. My husband James and I were neighbors growing up. My sister Fran was in the same grade as him. Everyone knew Fran in school because she was smart and beautiful. James had a huge crush on her, and we all knew about it. He asked her to prom, but she shot him down in front of the whole school. They stayed friends, but James moved to another state for college, and we didn't hear much from him except during the holidays. I was much younger than them and was never friends with James. They would often avoid including me in their hangouts. I went to college and got my first job in the same city as James. My mom suggested I reach out to him since I didn't know anyone there. We became friends, and 3 years later, we got married. We both have good jobs and love our life together. We moved back to our hometown during COVID to help James's mom, who had health issues. Fran also had a good life. She married at 23 to a wealthy man, but 2 years ago, she discovered he had been cheating on her throughout their marriage. She decided to leave him and moved back in with my mom. Since Fran hadn't worked during their marriage, she was counting on alimony. But due to a prenup, she barely got anything and is struggling financially. She got a job but can't afford her own place and still lives with my mom. James and I were very supportive of Fran during her tough times. Since they grew up as friends, James and Fran have a special bond with inside jokes and stories, which sometimes makes me feel like a third wheel when we hang out. However, James keeps his distance and has never given me any reason to think he has lingering feelings for her. On the other hand, Fran visits us a lot, about 2-3 times a week, and often stays for dinner and sleeps in our guest room. I don't mind her coming over, but I don't like that she talks to James more than she does to me. Plus, she usually comes over when I'm not home, and I often find them sitting together on the couch watching TV when I get back. It reminds me of my childhood when I felt left out, like when I was locked out of the basement while Fran had friends over. Fran is also way too comfortable around James. She walks around in just a towel after her shower or sleeps in her underwear in the guest room without locking the door. I've told her I'm uncomfortable, but she insists we're family and doesn't care. I've talked to James about it too, and he tries to explain their inside jokes when they come up. The main issue happened this weekend. I was hanging out with my mom and Fran when she started reminiscing about how James would do her homework and chores growing up. She said, "He was so much in love with me, and I felt guilty taking advantage of him." My mom jokingly said she wished Fran had married James instead of her loser husband, and that it would have prevented this situation. Fran smiled and nodded, but I felt hurt. I told my mom that James is my husband, and I didn't want her making comments like that. My mom doubled down, saying it made sense since both James and I earn well, while Fran is struggling. She kept saying it was just hypothetical and that she wants her daughters to be happy. I didn't like what she said and told them not to speak about James or our marriage that way. Fran then said I was being too sensitive and needed to stop taking it personally. This led to a fight, and I ended up leaving. When I got home, I told James about the argument, but he sided with my mom and Fran, saying it was just a harmless joke. I also brought up Fran's behavior in our house, but he said that's between me and my sister, and he wouldn't tell Fran how to dress in our home. I'm feeling really down about everything, and even though everyone apologized to me, it just doesn't feel right. Am I wrong for reacting this way, or does everyone else have a point? And should I be more secure in my relationship with James? Update. Thanks, everyone, for all your support on my previous post. To summarize, my mom made a really uncomfortable comment wishing my sister, Fran, was married to my husband, James. I got really mad, and James tried to downplay my feelings, saying I was overreacting to a harmless joke. Sorry for the long post, but a lot of you messaged me for an update, and I wanted to share what happened. The comments made me really paranoid, and I started to think maybe James only married me because he had a crush on Fran. This increased my anxiety, and I even started snooping around. James usually makes me check his phone for new messages when he's not around, so I knew there wasn't anything to hide. But I was still spooked by how Fran always knows when I'm not home and why James and Fran are always sitting together on the couch when I get back. I talked to James about it, and he said my feelings were valid. But he also insisted that Fran is going through a tough time and wouldn't say anything bad about my mom or her. Last Friday, I went to the gym as usual in the evening, and when I came home, Fran was sitting in the living room while James was cooking dinner. I got a bit annoyed and asked her what she was doing there. She said she had no plans for the night and just wanted to hang out with us. This really irritated me, and I told her I wanted to spend a quiet weekend with my husband and that she should come over another time. She could tell I was upset and started saying that our mom was just being silly and I needed to let it go since it was just a joke. I told her I didn't find it funny, and we got into a fight. She called me an insecure, annoying kid and said no wonder no one liked me. It really hurt, but James stepped in and told Fran she needed to leave. I had never seen him be so forceful with her. Fran muttered some unpleasant things to James as she left, and I ended up in tears. James was there to console me, but I was really upset and spent the night alone in our room. In the morning, I prepared notes on everything I wanted to ask James. Your comments really helped me clarify my thoughts. I know I was being very insecure, but after reading your insights, I started to question if James married me for who I am or just because I'm Fran's sister and look like her. People even called me Dollar Store Fran in high school. James and I had a long conversation, and I opened up about my anxieties and insecurities. I told him how it bothers me that he spends so much time with Fran when she visits and how they have their own inside jokes. I even asked him if he still has feelings for her. He stayed calm and smiled the whole time. He said he would tell me the truth, but hoped I wouldn't hate him for it later. He explained that he knew Fran used him throughout their school days because she knew he liked her. When he went to college, he realized how badly she treated him, especially when he started putting some distance between them. That's when he decided to cut contact with her and focus on himself, which is why he rarely visited us during the holidays and stopped being friends with Fran. I told him it bothers me that he chose Fran over me and ignored me during our childhood. That made me doubt if I was just his second choice. He reminded me that I was only 13 when he went to college, and if he had liked me back then instead of Fran, we'd have a whole different situation. He shared that when I first contacted him, he assumed I would be like Fran and wasn't very excited to meet me. But after we hung out a few times, he realized I was nothing like her. We quickly became close, started dating, and eventually got married. He mentioned that Fran was married by then, and he noticed I often put her on a pedestal, getting jealous when she posted vacation pictures or showed off the nice things her husband bought for her. That's why he never told me he didn't enjoy hanging out with Fran. He felt like she was always my North Star. He told me that he has always kept his distance from Fran, and she was more of a non-issue in our lives since we only met her a few times each year. But after her divorce, he felt unsure about how to act around her. He said he was really grateful to me for uprooting our lives and moving back to our hometown for his mom's health. He wanted to do the same for my family, to show that he cared. When Fran got divorced, he felt compelled to support her in every way he could, especially for my sake. However, he also knew this meant spending a lot of time with her and listening to her reminisce about all those high school memories that he would rather forget. I expressed how much it bothered me that Fran came to our house as often as she did, especially in the evenings when I was at the gym. He agreed that it was a bit odd how she seemed to know my gym routine so well and always chose those times to drop by when I was out. He reassured me that he had always kept his distance from her. He promised that if she ever did anything to raise alarms, he would let me know right away. He explained that when she visits, they mostly talk about old movies or TV shows they watched growing up, along with gossip about their high school friends. He emphasized that while they share some laughs and memories, it doesn't mean he has any lingering feelings for her. James wanted me to know that his loyalty is with me, and he was just trying to be a supportive friend to Fran during a tough time. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling of discomfort about her frequent visits, especially since I wasn't around to keep an eye on things. It's a strange situation for me, balancing my feelings of insecurity while trying to understand his intentions. He told me I really need to trust him. If I want him to be the bad guy and tell Fran to stop visiting us so often, he can definitely do that for me. However, he pointed out that he knows I will eventually make up with my mom and Fran, and he doesn't want to be blamed for being mean to her. He also mentioned that he wouldn't feel comfortable telling Fran what to wear around the house, saying it would come off as creepy if it came from him. After hearing all of this, I felt like I got the reassurance I needed from James, and I realized I would never doubt how amazing of a husband he has been. Then, on Sunday, my mom and Fran visited us. My mom was incredibly apologetic and told me she didn't want me to feel bad about her earlier comment. She emphasized that she would never wish anything negative on my marriage. Her intention was to express that James is a great guy, and she hopes Fran can find someone like him one day. Fran, on the other hand, seemed a bit sour at first, but eventually apologized for all the name-calling from Friday. She said it was just her hormones getting the best of her. Fran explained that she enjoys hanging out with her sister and her best friend, which is why she often comes over to our house. I welcomed her to visit anytime, but asked her to call ahead to check if James and I had any plans for the evening. She agreed, which I appreciated. I genuinely want to move past this issue, but I also feel the need to set some firm boundaries regarding when Fran can come over and hang out with James alone. I know it bothers him too, and I think it's essential for our peace of mind. Overall, I feel like things are good now. I'm relieved that my worst fears didn't come true, but I recognize that I might benefit from some therapy to help me deal with my insecurities and feelings of doubt. It's important for me to work through these emotions so I can feel more secure in my relationship moving forward.